I've been saying Alia. It's spelled A-L-I-A, but for some reason, I do not think her name is Aaliyah. I don't think it's Aaliyah. So in my head, I've been saying Alia, and then watch, it is Aaliyah. Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while. I was gone for a week, I think 2 weeks ago now. I came back, but I haven't been in the content kind of mood just with everything going on. So I haven't posted anywhere, Instagram, TikTok, as far as like bookish things go. However, there are a couple of different readathons going on, and specifically Liberate with Literature, which is put on by Black Book Talk. But I mean, you can just look up any kind of readathon and they have that. It's Black Book Talk for Palestine. And so I thought I'd at least document the books that I'm reading. I got 3 books from the library, but I'm going to be talking about this first one. So I started reading Something More by Jackie Khalilieh. The author is Palestinian Canadian, as well as our main character, Jessie. I don't know if I'm pointing to her right here. So this is probably the only book that I have that's going to be on the lighter side. I think the other ones are going to be more on the darker side, like just heavy. This one does have some trigger warnings, but again, just compared to the other ones, like this is a romance. So, you know, it's something different. But this is, I guess, going to kind of be a love triangle. I just started yesterday. I'm on page 60 and I am enjoying it so much. So we have Jessie. She is 15. She's just about to start 9th grade, and right before she finds out that she's autistic. However, I believe they say that she's on the, oh, what is it? I was just saying it the other day. Not the other day, yesterday. Higher end of the spectrum? Oh, that's not the word. Shoots. And I don't even know where to find it, honestly, because I've read 60 pages. She's seeing like a psychologist before, because one of the things is change can be like hard. So the psychologist wants to make sure that, you know, she's good and whatnot. And she makes her keep like a notebook of like goals or anything for her to keep. And so she's writing her goals down and whatnot. So I can tell that that's going to have something to do with the storyline. And when she starts, I think we meet Griffin first. I could be wrong, but it wasn't that memorable to me. But I think we meet Griffin first. He's in her art class and her homeroom. It's the same thing, her first hour. I'm mentioning that because for me in school, we actually had a homeroom. First hour was not our homeroom. But anyways. And then we have Levi. So I can already tell you, when I first saw the cover, I was like, I'm rooting for him. Like, I'm rooting for them together. So I was so excited to meet Levi when we're introduced to him. Y'all, it was such a letdown. And I can tell you now, I'm not going to be rooting for him. He's using her and whatnot. But I'm trying to make it quick because it's already 6:34 and I got to go. And I was reading the reviews. And everyone was like, oh, Team Griffin, Team Griffin. So I'm like, I can already tell you, I'm going to be Team Griffin. But anyways, yeah, so she starts school. And she really wants to make friends because before, you know, she kind of has a hard time making friends. She does. She has a little friend group. Griffin is a part of that friend group. Griffin, a girl named Kat, who is going to be a problem. Mark my words. She's already starting to be a problem. Oh, but anyways, one of the things is she wants to keep it a secret at school and whatnot that she is autistic. So she doesn't want anyone to know. In my opinion, I have a feeling the conflict is going to be Kat somehow is going to find out and she's going to out her. I'm just saying that now. I just feel like that's going to happen. Y'all, it's been so long since I've even like made YouTube videos that I don't even remember what to do. So, oh, check the fit. So today is Halloween day. It's October 31st. We got to wear, well, I wear what I want to work anyway, but they allowed us to wear Halloween stuff. You could have worn a costume if you wanted. My shirt says the Boo Crew, and I have on some long socks with boots. Anyways, so I finished it. I ended up finishing it yesterday, and I believe yesterday was Monday, but I started this Sunday and I finished it Monday. I absolutely loved it. For the longest time, I thought it was gonna be a 5. Like, I think up until like halfway, like I was like, this is gonna be a 5-star. Because when I read books, I go into it, sometimes the rating is already at a 5 and then I just deduct as I go. Or if it's a book that I don't know anything about, like I really don't know how I'm gonna feel, I start at a 0, make my way up. And sometimes if I think a book is really gonna be really mid, I start at a 3 and either make my way up or make my way down. This one I started at a 5 and I loved it, which is crazy because I was really nervous to read this, only because it comes off as something that'll be more suitable for young adult, even though that's not even young adult when you really think about the genre, the demographic. But she's 15, right? Typically the YA that I read, they're older. They're like 16, 17. 15 on the other hand, and then she was just starting high school. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this, but I absolutely loved it. Is it a love triangle? Yes and no. The love triangle feeling of like being torn, like who is she gonna pick? She's going to this one, she's going to that one, isn't until like the last 30 pages, which is actually why I kind of not took points off, but kind of was like, I've been anticipating this, and you're not putting it in until like the very, very end. So it's like I was anticipating the whole time, and I didn't like that feeling that I had. But I mean, it kind of is a love triangle. Another thing that I didn't really like, oh wait, did I say I gave it a 5? I am rounding it up to a 5, but I'm giving it a 4.5. I don't know if well, no, I know I didn't say that. You see, I don't remember how to do this. What I didn't like was oh shoot, I forgot the word. This is why I shouldn't have stopped myself. Repetitive. I thought it was a bit repetitive, especially with Levi. Because we deal with Levi practically the whole book. Like I said, that love triangle feeling doesn't hit until like the very end, like the last 25% of the book, maybe 30%. You know, we kind of get a feeling that she may like Griffin, but it's kind of like we know it as a reader, like, because we're analyzing her and his friendship, right? So we're like over analyzing it. She doesn't really know that she likes him yet or whatnot. Kind of felt like the story was dragging a little bit, was only because, or I was trying to rush and read it and see what she had going on with Griffin, is because I did not like the first impression that I got from him. They meet, I think I said this again before, I believe she met Griffin first because he should have been in her homeroom / first hour, which was art. But I think in her second hour was science, and Levi was in her science class. By the way, they're both 10th graders, Levi and Griffin. She's a freshman. They're both 16 and she's 15. And I just did not like the first impression that I got from him. And the first, I mean, like 25%, you know, it's clear that he's using her to get a good grade in science, because I think he even said the reason why he's there is because he was held back. He failed science last year, you know, and you could tell that he was using her, and I didn't like that at all. Now, at some point, I guess the author does kind of write his character in a way that there's some kind of development, but honestly, for me, that was it. Oh, my necklace. For me, that was it. It was done for. I'm not rooting for him at all. And I'm not saying what happens or anything. I'm just saying that I was definitely a Griffin girly. Even at the beginning, when it was just this friendship forming between them, I was always a Griffin girly. Which is so weird because obviously I thought I was really going to be rooting for Levi. But anyways, that's the long story. Again, this book was amazing. There were a couple of different things that I just felt like I just could not give it a perfect 5-star. And I couldn't give it a 4.75 either. So we're sticking with a 4.5. Hey, so I thought I would update. Now I am 54% of the way through. I'm on page, I was reading it in Walmart, so I'm in chapter 4, but I'm on page 172. And I say chapter 4, but the way that this book is formatted, it's in 2 parts. So this takes place in present day and in the past. So in present day, it begins at Nuruddin School for Girls, and there's no header or anything when you get to it. And then they have parts, the other sections are years, and this is like in the past. So it begins in 1976, and then we start chapter 1, and then once we read about 5 chapters in 1 year, so I think this goes up to 6, you go back to present day of at the school, and then you go back in the past. Like I think the next year is 1984, 85, and then you have like 10 chapters there. So this book begins in the present day, and we have Afaf, hope I'm pronouncing that right. She is a school teacher, she's Palestinian, and she is in this room. She's the principal at this school. It's a Muslim school for girls, and she's in this room. I don't know if she was going pray or not, but she was just alone in the room. I don't know what she was looking at. And then she hears gunshots. That's how it ends. That's literally, I think, the last sentence of that part. Then came loud thuds, like bags of cement dropping to the floor. Afaf leaned against the door, obscuring Gabriel's wings as he hovered over Mary. Clutching the two-way radio, she listened, her face tilted up toward the vent, because I think it was going on upstairs. And then we jump to 1976. And we spend a good part of this book in the past. And so we start in 1976. Our main character, Afaf, is 10. She has an older sister named Nada, who is 17. A younger brother who I believe is about 3 years younger than her. Majid, Majeed. And then her 2 parents. So her 2 parents, they had the eldest daughter, whatever, Nada, in Palestine. And then at some point they moved to the United States, moved to Chicago specifically. And then they had our main character, Afaf, and her younger brother. And so I find that each year that we get, right, because we're not getting it like 1976, 77, 78, you know, but we're getting these years are like, when you're reading it and you're seeing it unfold, these are like important pieces of Afaf's life. And at first, as I'm reading it, I'm enjoying it. Like I'm hooked on what I'm reading. I'm invested in it. But it's like I didn't understand the connection between this going back in the past and seeing things, and where we are in the future or in the present with this school shooting. But I think it does have a lot to do with it, because we're seeing her grow as a person. And at the beginning, she's very religious in the present. And I didn't realize when we go back in the past, she's not religious at all. Her family's not religious. So it's like we're seeing the part where I'm at. We're seeing her kind of evolve. And now her and her father are finding God, finding religion. And so it's a lot of important moments from her life. The first, or even like tragic, because that first moment, we go to 1976 first, because her sister Nada actually goes missing. And I guess that's like that turning point in her life, and that kind of just put some things on hold in the family. And yeah, but anyways, I have 1 bar left. It's really good. I honestly feel like once I finish this, how many pages do I have left? I think this is, oh, I forgot this book is short. It's only 298 pages. I have a little over 100 pages left. 126. I'm going to continue reading this. Oh yeah, I was saying that I feel like once I finish this, I feel like I won't be able to express how much I loved this book. I mean, I still have 120, whatever I just said, pages left. So a lot of things can go down in this little chunk. Book 2 for this video is done. I'm gonna give this a 4.75, rounded to a 5. At first, I was like, no, it's a 5-star, it's a 5-star. But then I read some of the reviews. They really don't have a lot of 1-star and 2 stars. And I kind of agree with what some of them were saying, and it kind of convinced me not to give it a solid 5. The one thing that people were mentioning in their 2-star reviews that I kind of agree with, we do get the point of view of the shooter. Not the very first, like that opening, no, not that's hers. But every other update that, oh, I could be lying, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I believe every other update that we get in the present is his POV. I wasn't really interested. I don't think we needed it at all. Someone else mentioned they would have preferred just the story of a Fox life, like just the past that we were getting. The past that we were getting was really good. You know, I was really invested in it. Yeah, the shooter's POV, I could have done without it, you know? Well. We have come to the end of this video with my last, oh, that don't move, she taped it down. With my last book. I need to grab the other one because I think that this one can be compared to another one, for one thing. So, Salt Houses. I'm gonna wait to give my rating at the end. So I would say the formatting of this book is a little similar to The Beauty of Your Face, which is what, the first one that I read? No, the second one that I read in this video, right before this one. Meaning there's no chapters. It's just a character's name, because we're in their POV, the place where they are, and the month and the year. So this is the first chapter. If I do say chapter, that's what I mean, even though it doesn't say like chapter 1. So like the first section, we have Salma, Nablus, and March of 1963. And we begin at, you know, that first thing that they tell you in the synopsis. We begin with like on the eve or so of her oldest daughter's wedding. I've been saying Alia. It's spelled A-L-I-A, but for some reason I do not think her name is Aaliyah. I don't think it's Aaliyah. So in my head I've been saying Alia, and then watch, it is Aaliyah. And it begins with like reading her future in a coffee cup. And in her future, you know, she sees like, I don't know if she says specifically displacement. She sees an unsettled life for Alia and her children. She also sees travel and luck. And then she keeps those predictions to herself. She never tells her daughter. She tells her something else, like, oh, I can't really see anything right now, or whatever. And that's how the whole book takes place. However, unlike this book where the years that we see were like the most like prominent years of our main character's life, this is not. The most like in between each is like, no, the least, I don't know how to word that, but there's at least 2 years that pass in between. Sometimes there's 10 years. So like this first section is 1963. The second section is going to be a different character, a different month, and 2 years later. And I don't think it's a different place. I think it's still in Nablus. But the POVs that we get Salma, who's the mom, and I'll show you the tree after. You get Mustafa, who's the youngest son and the only son of her. You get Alia, who's the oldest daughter. You get Atef, who's her husband. You get, I need to look at it. Riham, Karam, and Suad, who are the children of Alia. And then you get the children of them. So it's like, what is that, 4 generations of characters. And it's literally just following their life, like seeing their life story. But the thing is, you're getting one character at a time. I think there's maybe 3 characters that you actually revisit a second time. Most characters are in here just once, but it's like 20 pages dedicated to that character in whatever year we are. For example, she doesn't really go into, if you're worried about like the detail on like the violence, and she doesn't go into detail about that. There was only one time in the beginning where another character, like a side character, was telling Mustafa, who's the son, about this other guy's family, and that was kind of detailed, but it wasn't even on page, you know what I mean? He was just recounting what happened. I was saying that she doesn't really go into detail about these things. What'll happen is we'll see an event that's coming up and we'll pass it. We'll get to another section that's maybe 10 years later, and somewhere, or 5 years later, and somewhere in that next section with whoever's character we're in, whoever character's POV we're in, they'll kind of summarize what happened. So for example, I knew when I was getting close to 1990, the year 1990, this is not a spoiler, it's right here, that it says when Saddam Hussein invades Kuwait in 1990, Alia and her family once again lose their home, their land, and their story as they know it, scattering to Boston, Paris, Beirut, and beyond. So I knew as I was getting closer to 1990, I was like, oh Lord, I'm so scared because we've grown. I mean, you don't get there until like, I don't know, a little over 100 pages or a little past the halfway mark, something like that. And it's like we've gotten to know these characters. We've seen their life, and it's like they've really like set up their home in Kuwait, what is it, Kuwait City that they were living in. And it's like, I don't want to see them be displaced. You get to 1988 and I'm like, oh, we're getting close to 1990. And the next section is 1990. But I think it's also interesting whose characters she decides to be in when we're summarizing these things. Because when we get to 1990, the war has already, the invasion has already started. But we're not even in Kuwait. We're in Suad's POV, who is the daughter of Alia and Atef. We're in her POV, and she's not even in Kuwait. She's in Paris to study. So we're kind of seeing what's happening there through her, but it's not even a first-hand account. She's getting it from, you know, the news, or when her mom calls her. So it's very interesting, like, how she decided how we're gonna like revisit these certain moments through certain characters. So, and I mean, they give you a map, a family tree at the beginning. And I just thought that the book was written like really well. I think it's very beautiful. I did go ahead and look at other reviews, like 1 stars and 2 stars, and I think a lot of people were saying like they just didn't like how many characters there were. There were a ton, and I think for me, and I'll get into my rating, but what was hard for me, it was hard to start it for a couple of different reasons. One, this is a book out of my comfort zone, and not because she's Palestinian, but because this is historical fiction. I don't read no historical fiction, y'all. If it's not romance or thrillers, I don't want it. But so that I was a little hesitant to get into it. But once I did, like at least like 80 pages, I was like sucked in. The other thing was the time jumping. It took me 80 pages to get used to it. And you would think it would be easy because at the start of the new sections, it tells you the year. But no, she time jumps in the passages. So like you could be reading one paragraph, and if you're not paying attention, you're missing that. Now she starts talking about a memory, and then now we're in that memory in the past. And then it's like I don't realize it until like we're getting out of it and we're back in the present. And I'm like, what? There are like 2 things that have happened in here that I'm kind of like, I need to kind of find like a spoiler review, because I need to see if I was understanding things correctly, but I don't want to say it because that's a spoiler. But yeah, so I was saying that I thought this was going to be a 5-star. I may give it like a 4.5 or a 4.75 and round it up to a 5, because I also think that the characters, at first it was hard to remember who was who at the beginning, which is crazy because there weren't even that many characters. And then I got used to it. But then I got too comfortable because once I got towards the end, I had to keep looking at the family tree because I couldn't remember, because the grandchildren were older at the end. So they were like in their 20s. And I'm like, dang, I don't remember who's child is this? And then I'm like, so wait, who are they to Ollie? And it's like, oh wait, that's their grandma, that's her grandchildren. But I thought that it was really cool how we kind of got to see 4 generations. Now, I'm not going to say like, oh, you know, we grew up with them. Not really, because you're getting chunks of their life. So for example, there's one, in between one section, it was 10 years. So we were in 1967 in, I think, Alia's POV. And then we get a Tef's POV and we're in 1977. There was a 10-year gap. For example, their oldest daughter, Riham, we don't meet her for the first time when she's born. She's 9 when we first meet her. But it still feels like we got to see them grow up, even though we didn't. We just got chunks of their life. And I actually really liked that format. That was another thing that I saw in reviews that some people didn't like. I liked it. I liked the format. I liked that she did it that way. I thought it was beautiful. But that's it for this video. What did I read in here? I read 3 authors for Liberate with Literature. I read Something More by Jackie Khalilieh. I don't have that book. That was already returned like 2 weeks ago. The Beauty of Your Face by Sahar Mustafa. And then Salt Houses by Hala Alian. That's it. I will be doing 2 more parts to this video because I believe since I started this video, Tori was making like amendments to this readathon to include Congo and Sudan. So since I read 3 in here, I'm going to do a part 2 to read books by Congolese authors and then books by Sudanese authors. Probably 3 each, because in these reading vlogs, I say this all the time, but I like to read 3 books in them. And no more than 3 and no less than 3. But anyways, that's it. I got to get to work. I got to go to the dentist today.